The common denominator of all champions is fitness and health. Only healthy pigeons win races. Tony Cowans is discussing the whole subject of health in pigeons with pigeon specialist Armand Scheers.
England in general. Armand, it's one of the things we pigeon fanciers agree and disagree about is the families of pigeons, wing theory, eye sign. But there's one part of the pigeon sport which I deem most important, and you as a pigeon specialist I'm sure you would agree, and that is disease.
Yeah.
Shall we say, Armand, that the basic diseases will, with your very professional way of explaining things, but I am a layperson, Armand, could you explain to me some of the most important diseases connected with the pigeon sport?
Yeah. Well, the most diseases the fanciers know are the parasital ones, like coccidiosis, worms, trichomoniasis, they call it canker, respiratory diseases, etc. But the main diseases, I should call them worms, coccidiosis, and canker, because these three diseases are mostly the start to others.
Fine.
Yeah.
Armand, in your own way, could you explain to me, for example, worms, the symptoms of a worm disease or worm infestation?
Well, it's very difficult to talk about systems from a disease because a pigeon who has worms is going to lose weight, going to have a very liquid dung.
Excuse me, Armand, dung droppings, of course.
Droppings,
Sorry, that's
okay,
right, yeah.
yes. Losing weight, the color of the droppings can be yellow, can be green, can be brown, but you can have exactly the same system by coccidiosis. So the biggest mistakes some fanciers make is they're just reading in a book or something, and they said coccidiosis gives, okay, losing weight, liquid droppings, color of the droppings is yellow, or is that? They look to their pigeons on the loft, they see the system, that hey, worms.
So it's not dissimilar to a...
And this is wrong, you know?
Sure.
Yes.
It's not dissimilar to a human. When they read medical books, they find that they've got all the diseases because in the book they say this, that and the other. Likewise, pigeons, because go in light, wet droppings, it doesn't specifically mean that it's one specific illness.
That's right.
For worms, for example, then, we say the symptoms are wet droppings. Would you say loss of appetite?
Yes.
Loss of appetite?
Well, not always, because it depends what kind of worms. The pigeons who has the roundworms or the ascaris, they shall eat more because the worms are eating the food inside. So they eat more, but still losing weight. And it depends of the level of infection from the worms. With capillaria or hairworms, it's different. Pigeon becomes more sick because a hairworm is more dangerous than a roundworm. And pigeons who are infected with hairworms, I should say you see practically the same systems as roundworms, but with hairworms they're going to lose appetite, they shall not eat anymore. With roundworms they're going to eat a lot, they're not going to lose their appetite, but they're also still losing weight. So it's very difficult for the fancier to see. It's even difficult to make to see the difference between worm infection, let it not be round or hairworms, and between a coccidiosis infection. There's only one object who can tell you exactly it's worms or it's coccidiosis. This is the microscope.
So it's veterinary?
Yeah.
You must go and see your local
Right.
veterinary man.
Right.
In England, Armand, we're not quite so, let's say, professional or organised as the Belgians, the Dutch, etc., and Germans indeed, of course, with the veterinary facilities. To the layperson, the little man in the street like myself who has these problems, what would you recommend? Every year, every month, every week, every day?
Oh, well, it's very difficult. I can give you an example here in Belgium, in the laboratory. We have some fanciers during the racing season coming every week. Some others come every 2 weeks, some once a month. Most of them, they come when there is something wrong, then it's too late. But the real champions, they shall never go to a vet only when there is something wrong. They go preventively.
Prevention
That's
is the
right,
key there,
yes.
of course, Armand.
And when you talk with people like Gomar or like William Gates, and I said, why? Fanciers ask that also on seminars or panels. Why you go so often to a vet? Because you tell me a vet cannot give the power on our pigeons, or the pigeons ourselves must raise, and then the answer is always the same. We are winning, and from the moment that we see something wrong, we have to go to the vet on that moment, our pigeons losing already 1 or 2 weekends. We have to treat them, and when they come in condition again, there is 1 month lost. Now we are examining our pigeons preventively. So the vet look in the microscope, you see, hey, 15 or 20% or 25% of coccidiosis, take care. Little treatment when the pigeons come home from the race. Give them a treatment 2, 3, 4 days, pigeon stays in condition. Sometimes they have a little down, maybe 1 week, maybe 2, 3 days. But this is the point of these big ones, you know, this prevention. They do not take risks.
Prevention, Armand, obviously in your mind, prevention is far better than cure.
Right.
In the case of worms, what is the cure?
Well, medication, of course, but it depends with what kind of worms the pigeon is infected. Let's take the roundworms. Piperazine will do it.
Excuse me, Armand. Piperazine,
Yes.
which is the basic worming for humans, I understand.
Right.
Dogs likewise.
That's right.
It's an African root?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. On the other side, there are a lot of laboratories in every country who make medications. I don't think that there are laboratories who can permit themselves to bring something on the market who is bad. So I don't believe that, so let no mention names. But I know that a lot of fanciers uses wrong medication against the wrong infection. But that's the problem. And on the end of the story, sometimes they say, hey, this medication do not work, this medication is not good. I should be very careful with words like that, because in most cases it's the fancier himself who gives something without professional advice.
Would you, Armand, on that point, would you recommend for the treatment of worms a tablet, round tablet, individual treatment, or, as in some veterinary companies in England, they have a water treatment? Which would you recommend?
Well, we use the water too. We use the water medication too. We also have tablets in Belgium. And, well, they're both good. But tablets, one, it's a lot of work, especially when you have a lot of pigeons in the loft. But this is why we also prefer the water treatment. But some fanciers, they think that with tablets, they have a theory and they say, okay, we give a tablet to the pigeon, we are sure they have the right proportion, every pigeon has the stuff, so. On the water treatment, I think some pigeons drink too much, some pigeons drink too less, some even don't drink. Well, this is not true. Of course, it's true that one pigeon drinks a little bit more as another one, but on the end of the story, there is no point that we can say, okay, the treatment is not good, or the treatment with tablets are better. They're both good.
There's no black and white way of saying.
No, absolutely not.
Which is-
Even with hot weather, okay, let them drink a little bit more. It do not harm the birds in most cases. Pigeons shall not drink so much that he shall be harmed. So you can never be sure and say, look, from this moment I shall never have worms anymore. Nobody can say that, but you can do a lot on it. You can prevent a lot. Prevention is against all parasital diseases, even for coccidiosis and worm eggs. In the first place, keep the loft dry, very dry. A loft with who is wet or with a lot of moisture, you're going to breed worms. When you have a dry loft, let the sun come in, light, because the best disinfectant is the sunlight. Ultraviolet, I say this in English.
Yes, ultraviolet. That's
Right, yes. It's a very good disinfectant. On the other side, you can also give through nature products some prevention, like garlic.
Garlic, Armand?
Well, yeah, some herbs. Look, don't take my words too seriously, because garlic is a prevention on worms. Okay, that's a fact. But one may never say, okay, I give my pigeons garlic every week or twice a week. I shall never have worms. That's not true.
Tell me, garlic you mentioned, you deem not totally important, but sufficient enough to help the fight against the worm.
Yes, not only garlic, because most people know, and it's also written in old books, that garlic is preventive against worms, is also good for the bloodstream, etc., etc. But in Belgium, in the old days, there is a herb, and they called it in Flemish boerenwormkruid, and translated in English it means farmer's worm herb.
Farmers
Worm herb, yes. The name of the plant is in Flemish boerenwormkruid. And in those years, I'm talking now in the years before the war, old fanciers wrote in books and in pigeon papers that they give this plant, this boerenwormkruid, and they never had worms, never. And this herb or this plant is very known in Belgium and very famous in Belgium by the old fanciers.
Yes.
The young, they don't know it anymore, but the old fanciers, everybody knows what it is. And a lot of them still use it. And it's a matter of fact, they practically have no problem with worms. On the worm infections, we deal with worm eggs,
Yes.
who are lying on the bottom of the lofts and in the nest boxes and everywhere. With coccidiosis, we deal with oocysts. And it's a kyst, it's not an egg. It's not so easy to explain for me in English, but it's a kind, let's say a kind of an egg. But, and they are always in the pigeon. You give me the best champion of all the UK, I examine them on a microscope, I guarantee you I found some oocysts of coccidiosis. That's a fact.
But there must be a part where it's
A
too
little
many,
bit, yes.
or too low, or
That's right. Maybe find 1%, 2%, 3%, And there is a level in Belgium, we use levels in percentage or in grades. A pigeon who is infected with oocysts from 0 until 18%, we'd call it negative. No treatment, pigeon is free. From 18 until 30, first degree, from 30 until 50, second degree, above 50, third degree. On the first degree, no symptoms. So the pigeon is positive infected, let's take now 25% or 30% coccidiosis. This pigeon is really infected and must have treatment. If you ask me about the systems, in this first degree, none. You see nothing in the bird. Second degree, above 30% coccidiosis, start to have wet droppings, losing a little bit weight already, rough feathers, pigeons sit, you know, in the loft. A good fancier sees immediately, hey, there is something wrong. Third degree, everybody sees it, but then it's too late.
Yep.
Then you need weeks and weeks to recover, you know. The preventive way, same as worms, dry, sunlight, take care with the drinkers, you know, keep it dry. Preventive way through plants or through medication, this is not so easy for coccidiosis. I know a lot of fanciers who give some sulfamides.
Sulfamezaphine.
Sulfamezathine, sulfadimidine, there are a lot of the sulfamides group. This is dangerous because fanciers who use, let's say, every 2-3 weeks, one day or in the racing time, in the racing season, the sulfamides, we're going to have immunity from the pigeon against the sulfamide group.
If I may just expand that a little, Armand, in my language, you're saying that if you continually dosed or drugged your pigeons for coccidiosis, the acceptance level, those at 18% would get stronger. The goodies and the baddies, the good and the bad, the baddies would get stronger, the goodies would get weaker, because you have weakened their resistance internally by a continuation of...
Well, not exactly. You're in the right way, but the problem is when they use often this drug or this sulfamide, the problem is that the body of the pigeon shall get immunity or a resistance against the medication. So the medication should not work anymore. Right. Maybe you mean it right, but I understood you wrong. It's not easy, you know.
It's like let's say, which is very common in England right now, we have a rat problem.
Yes. That's it.
They've got stronger and stronger.
Resistance against, that's right, yes.
So going back to the coccidiosis situation, it's obviously very important to have a dry loft. Mm-hmm. Light and that wonderful ultraviolet, which is free, yes. We have talked about the treatment of them, which would have to be done through a veterinary,
yes, right.
as in England most certainly. The symptoms, wet droppings, I occasionally see in very well written veterinary books, blood occasionally.
Yeah, we call them blood coccidiosis. We may not forget that we have more than 14 different kinds of coccidiosis. More than 14 different types of oocysts, different types of emerias, we call them. Yeah. And in most cases, the coccidiosis by pigeons can have about 3 until 4 varieties. Sometimes the pigeon is infected with emeria labiana, sometimes infected with, okay, the sulfamide group, some medications are good for the 4. But let's take the coccidiosis by rabbits. Fanciers who has a pigeon loft, under the loft some rabbits. These rabbits can also have coccidiosis. And this coccidiosis, in most cases, not always, but in most cases, it's a different type as the coccidiosis of the pigeons. When the pigeon gets that type of coccidiosis, they need another medication.
Which experts like yourself would
obviously advise. But we only can see that when we have these oocysts under the microscope and said, hey, this is another type, we have to go in another direction concerning the medication.
Yeah. Just tell me, the next one I would consider to be equally important, although all diseases are important, of course, but referring to ones which affect the everyday fancier, would be, would you agree, trichomoniasis, canker? Yellow, cheesy...
Yes, yes.
Yeah. This, Armand, I understand, is very similar to cocci in its makeup, or coccidiosis in its makeup. It's already, and by the use of medication, we keep it suppressed. Would you?
Yeah.
Would you?
Look, trichomoniasis is something else. First of all, I must say that there is no immunity or no resistance against trichomonas. It do not exist.
Armand, you're saying, in effect, that every pigeon have this problem?
Not trichomonas.
No.
No. Coccidiosis, yes.
Yes.
Trichomonas, every pigeon can have it, but let's put it this way. A pigeon may have about 2, 3, 4% coccidiosis. This is normal. A pigeon with 1% trichomonas is 1% too much. Because we are dealing here with living one-cell animals. They multiply themselves. So this one is still 2, 4, 8, 60, 32, and so on.
So it's not a disease, in effect, Armand. It's more of a condition. Let's say there's no... How I see it, Armand, is that there's no way possibly we can breed a team of racing pigeons which is totally immune to trichomonas.
No, impossible.
Every pigeon eventually will get trichomonas.
Can get.
Sorry. Operative word,
I know
definitely.
pigeons who
But
never
you,
had them.
But you cannot build up any family of pigeons which is trichomonosis
Free, no. Out of the question.
And the symptoms are what, Armand?
Well, it depends. The most cases of trichomonas are canker, they called in England. When we examine pigeons, and we have some fanciers who show us the birds, take some slime out of his throat, do it under the microscope, and we find 10, 15, 20% of trichomonas. Then we can show this on an electronic screen, and the fancier himself see, okay, this little animal's moving, and it's a little bit exciting for the fancier, but it's just a normal view. And then the fancier asks, hey, is that from my bird? Because I raced them last Sunday, and he won a second, or he won a first, or he won a fifth. Yeah, okay, but the microscope is not a liar, it's a machine. So positive is positive. And then there is another fancier comes who have 70, 80% of trichomonas. And this man shall not say, hey, last Sunday I won a second or a first, because he cannot even touch paper anymore, we say in Belgium. He cannot
Touch paper, you cannot win. You
cannot win a prize,
no,
right.
Right.
Not being on the list of the winners.
Right, that's right.
And
excuse me, at that point, so a high incident, 80%, there's no way you can win a pigeon race, but with 20%, the pigeon is...
oh yes, even I even had in the past some fanciers with birds infected until 35%.
And winning.
Still won a first prize here provincial in Antwerp.
But Woody, with 0, would he have done that much better?
Absolutely.
So really, we must have some form of
Absolutely.
preventive course
Yes.
for trichomonas.
But we may not forget, Tony, that not only, we may not take all the pigeons through the same keyhole, you know, because it's like by human beings. When I have a cold,
Which I have now, Armand.
like you have now, some people are in bed with that cold.
Right.
I know people with bronchitis who can go to work every day. It's the same with pigeons. Some pigeons have problems with 10% trichomonas. Other, they even feel nothing but 30, 35. So every pigeon is not the same. Fans just forget this always.
That's a very interesting
It's
point.
the same as human beings, you know.
Yes.
They say a pigeon is a pigeon. That's not true.
No.
Concerning the resistance against diseases, that's absolutely not true. Strong pigeons can win more with a little bit diseases, and pigeons who are weak, even for 5, 6% of trichomonas, they lose their condition already. So, in the majority, and we always say that and the most fanciers do this in Belgium, we prevent every week when the pigeons come home from a race with a treatment against trichomonas, just 1 teaspoon in a liter water, give that every week of every Saturday or Sunday when the pigeons return, let them drink. and finished. Because suppose they come from the race, they picked some trichomonas up in the basket. They come on with 3, 4, 5, 6%, absolutely not more. This little preventive treatment in the drinking water shall kill immediately the living trichomonas. The pigeon is free. Suppose fanciers don't do that. Next week they're going to race with that bird who is infected, right? He shall have 10%. Maybe he still can win. Next week 15, 20, still can win. Then it starts to go down. You don't say, hey, there is something wrong, my condition is gone, and then they go to shops, buy them some medication for respiratory or for this, just these blind treatments, and then most of them, 9 on 10, they're lost. In Belgium, they give that preferentially only in the racing season, because in the rest season it's not necessary to do this treatment every week. But we do not take risks, you know.
Armand, that is very interesting to me, because I've always been a person very wary of mass flock treatment using antibiotics to resistant. You know, the more you give them, the more you have to give them each time to cure or to prevent something. But in the case of trichomonas, that doesn't apply. You can, on your recommendation, treat racing pigeons virtually weekly through a racing season with a low dose of some form of anti-trichomonas. Yes?
Absolutely.
So my idea in my head regarding giving antibiotics and so forth, which would in turn and eventually lead to a downturn, would not apply to trichomonas.
Yes, but there is a big difference between a preventive treatment or a treatment against trichomonas and antibiotics. Because against trichomonas, one shall not use antibiotics, because antibiotic is worthless against trichomonas. Antibiotics in most cases make for bacterial diseases, you know. We're talking about canker. Trichomonas is not a bacteria, it's a one-cell animal. And in most cases, we use a product that they even use for human beings in hospitals against trichomonas by older ladies and people who have troubles. We go not mention names, but we use this medication, most of them in Belgium, for trichomonas. And this medication is harmless.
The symptoms, Armand, we haven't really discussed. Would you say the cheesy deposits on the mouth are the first?
Take care here, because this is a point that practically no fancier know. I explain this in a lot of seminars and when we have film shows and everything, explain this. And trichomonas, it's a little bit the same as coccidiosis, because we have different types, different families. Some families are more dangerous than the others, you know. And we may divide this group of trichomonas, histomonas, in two main groups, the weak ones and the strong ones, that they take it this way. And the most pigeons who are infected with trichomonas are infected with one of the strong groups, like the Trichomona, Garina, etc. This group of trichomonas shall practically not produce the yellow pus in the throat. Then the other groups come, the weak ones. Even when the pigeon is infected with 20-30% of this type, the yellow pus is already, you see it in the mouth, you know.
Ah, cheesy.
So, and then just think a little bit. When a veterinary examines the slime of a pigeon and see, hey, we have here a very heavy infection of trichomonas, 80, 85, even 90%. And when you open the back of the pigeon, you just see nothing. It's totally clean. So how do you explain that?
Exactly.
So we are here with these different types, you know.
So really, Armand, you're saying there's only one sure way of diagnosing trichomonas correctly regarding percentage is a slime test, a saliva test.
On a microscope.
Microscope.
It is the only way.
As opposed to the way I would, as a layperson, would walk into the loft, open a pigeon's beak and say, oh...
You have very sharp eyes.
Yeah, right, yeah. And of course there's the other kind, the naval kind, which we see visibly.
Yes, but then it's too late. Huh?
Sure.
Well, it's not too late, but then the pigeon is too
Yeah.
far already infected. Huh?
But I understand, Armand, on the lung, internally, there's the trichomonas noodles or canker.
Yes, yes,
Yeah?
yes.
To, as I say, to myself, I see it
Mm.
not infrequently, and it is usually a yellowy, cheesy,
That's right, yes.
and on the navel, of course. But I have also read and opened pigeons and seen it on the lung system, the liver system.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm. Well, this is that kind of trichomonas that we call the weak ones, because the pigeon himself, the body of the pigeon, react against the invader, against the trichomonas. And the system of the pigeon can kill a lot of these trichomonas or neutralize themselves. And this is the yellow, as you see, you know. By the strong ones, the body do not kill by himself. So no dead ones, so no yellow pus. It's simple as that. But we may not forget that when the fancier see this yellow pus in the throat or in the back, we may not forget that there is another disease called diphtheria, who has nothing to do with trichomonas, give the same system. So I know that in the past and still now, a lot of pigeons are treated with stuff against trichomonas or canker when the pigeons is infected or have diphtheria.
Armand, paratyphus, paratyphoid, big
So-
problem.
Yes, salmonellosis or paratyphoid was and still is one of the biggest problems from our pigeons. In the past, the disease killed a lot of pigeons in every country around the world. And in those days, years ago, they couldn't treat it very well, you know, so most pigeons died, the other killed by the fancier themselves. Now the last years, science never stops, so always make progresses. And last years there is practically no problem anymore to cure paratyphoid. But we may not say that this disease is gone, because it still happens every day in some lofts.
Would you agree with me, Armand, that perhaps 95%, even 100% of pigeon lofts have some form of paratyphus within their pigeons? Mild form, to some degree?
Talking about salmonella, no. We may say that the most pigeons are the parents. Years and years ago, this family is back, you know, that those parents had some paratyphoid once in their lives. And generations back now, there's these pigeons, some of the pigeons have a little bit immunity against this disease, but I may absolutely not say that our pigeons, or we can make immune pigeons against paratyphoid. This is impossible,
Yes.
because we're talking
I mean-
about bacteria. You know.
Fine. Tell me, what would be the symptoms, the first symptoms of paratyphus?
Well, it's similar with paramyxo. It depends where the salmonella is in the pigeon. You have different types of salmonellosis. You have the nerve salmonellosis, so we're going to have twisting necks. How you call this, that the pigeon cannot keep
Unbalanced.
Yes, unbalanced. When the salmonella located himself in the intestines, we talk about intestine salmonellosis. We have then inflammation of the intestines. Pigeons have very wet droppings, losing weight in just a couple of days.
Days?
Yes, can lose about 80% of their weight in 2-3 days.
Good Lord.
And they're going to die. Another type of paratyphoid is when the salmonella located themselves in the joints. We have the swollen joints, you know, the wings. So it is a salmonella disease, but it depends where it is located. And it also, from this, it shall depends what kind of symptoms that the fancier is going to see. When you see a twisting neck, now the last years when the paramyxo came, it's a viral disease. Not one fancier can see the difference on the symptoms. I have paramyxo or I have paratyphoid. Not even a vet.
So we have one virus disease, in actual fact very similar to one bacterial disease, which must be extremely difficult.
It is, the difference is so big than Earth and Moon.
Yes?
But the symptoms are not. The symptoms are similar.
Very similar.
Yes, because even the virus can make damage on the nerves. Also the bacteria make damage on. Let me give you an example. If you break this cup, we have the cup in pieces. And when I break that cup, I'm a different person as you, still in pieces. Or when my dog breaks this cup. So when it's a virus or a bacteria who make damage to something, the symptoms shall be twisting neck. Whoever, that's a virus or a bacteria. The big difference is between the microorganism. There is no difference between the damage that
That's right.
twisting necks.
Okay, so the symptoms are not very much unlike paramyxis, whereby we have a nervous imbalance.
That's right.
But with paratyphus, stroke paratyphoid, salmonella poisoning, we have lumps on the wings, we have lumps on the legs.
Sometimes, not always.
Not always.
Yeah.
And in the case of a pigeon, will they eventually die with these lumps on the wing?
No. No. No, after a cure, the pigeon is going to cure totally from salmonellosis, but once again, when the bacteria or the salmonella left damage behind in the joint, this joint shall never comes the right way again. It shall always be fatter or...
So a bad wing, for example, with a boil, the boil will disappear.
It depends. When there is no damage left behind in the joint, it shall disappear totally.
And the wing come back up?
And the wing come back up like before, no problem at all. When the salmonella or the bacteria left damage or damaged inside the joints or the lymph channels in the joint, then the wing shall never come right again. So, and this is a gamble. Nobody knows that in advance, you know. We just have to wait and see about that.
Would they become carriers?
Well, yes. Some pigeon who can become carriers after having the disease, and we call them seropositive. So a pigeon can be seropositive, not always. So it means that the pigeon is not sick anymore, no problem at all of the infection of salmonella, that he can carry it and give it to another. I must also tell you, it's very important to know that paratyphoid is also one of the only diseases who can give the disease through the egg to the young pigeon. Your pigeon may have coccidiosis, worms, respiratory diseases, everything you can imagine. The egg who's come out of that hen is sterile, no problem at all. Your pigeon can be free of everything, have a little bit salmonella or paratyphoid, the egg is infected.
So if a fancier have a round of eggs and a high percentage, and I will ask you what percentage that will be, are failing to hatch black eggs, there's distinctive signs of salmonella in the flock.
A pigeon who has paratyphoid, I'm talking now about a cock. The salmonella can also attack and inflame the testicles of the cock. So this pigeon, when the testicles are inflamed and afterwards the pigeon is cured, this cock can never produce anymore. Never finish eggs. He's finished for all his life. The same with the hen, with the, how you call this, the egg?
Duct.
Yes.
Oviduct.
That's right, the same with that. But this is not always. I may say that let's take about 100 pigeons who are infected with salmonella, maybe 2 have this problem, they cannot produce anymore. But the chance, the possibility is there.
Yeah. Bad hatch, black eggs, fail to hatch, dead in shell, are they all symptoms of?
Can be paratyphoid, but it's not necessary. It can be a lot of other things, you know.
So the pigeon fancier like myself will walk into his loft in the morning and he looks for rapid loss of weight.
Mm-hmm.
He'll look for general disability, tiredness, loose droppings, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? And in a latter stage, in a matter of what, a day, a week or a month, a lump would appear?
Yes.
Yes?
These are also 3 different types together. It
You tell me.
practically never happened. You're talking still about paratyphoid, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Fancier 1 has weight droppings on the loft. Pigeons are losing weight. Don't know what to do, so you give them a treatment for coccidiosis. No result. Treatment for worms. No result. Even worse and worse and worse. Then you can start to think, hey, is something wrong? So it can be colibacillose, it can be paratyphoid. So here we are on the bacteriology. This is already a symptom that you can think in the direction of paratyphoid.
If I may stop you there.
Yes.
In England, for many years, we accepted that going light was a disease, as opposed as a symptom of a disease. Like, for example, a headache is a symptom of perhaps, in my case this morning, a cold. Yes?
Yeah.
So in the same way, you're saying that paratyphus, or loose droppings, losing of weight, does not necessarily mean...
Oh, no.
In the first place...
Oh, no, absolutely not. You can have it with coccidiosis, you can have it with colibacillosis, you can have it with worms, you can have it with hairworms. Oh, no, absolutely not. There is no system, no one symptom in those kind of diseases who can tell the fancier, look, this is that disease, give it that cure, that's it. It's not so simple. This is...
We must seek veterinary...
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Because
Yes.
we are wasting a time, which prevention is our key to it,
That's right.
key to a door, and of course the expense of the valuable racing pigeons which could obviously die.
Sometimes it's very difficult to understand for the pigeon fanciers the difference between paramyxo and paratyphoid. We're here at the moment in one of the most famous laboratories in Belgium about research, bacteriology and virology. Next to me we have Dr. Mark Verlinden, one of the leading veterinarian researchers here in the laboratory. Dr. Verlinden, can you give in a few words an explanation to the fancier, not to science way, not to a vet, but to the fancier, in a few words, the difference between paratyphoid and paramyxo?
Paratyphoid is a bacterial infection. Paramyxo is a virus infection. The symptoms of the 2 diseases could be exactly the same.
They are similar, huh?
Similar, yes.
The fancier can absolutely not see by himself the
No.
difference. He has to go to the vet, huh?
Yes, he needs the vet to make a difference of the 2 diseases.
Okay, suppose we send you a pigeon here and our laboratory asks you, look, we have here a pigeon. We suspect the pigeon from paratyphoid or from paramyxo. Pigeon comes in, what are you doing?
Therefore, to make the difference, we take blood of the pigeon to see that he has antibodies to the paramyxo virus, so we can make the diagnosis of the virus infection.
Can you also actually see the difference when you read on the blood titer or you take the blood? Can you see the difference between pigeons who are vaccinated or pigeons who are infected with paramyxo? Is there a difference to see?
When we know when the pigeon has been vaccinated and with what vaccine, we can make the difference.
What's bacteriology? People do not understand it.
For paratyphoid, we had to do a bacterial investigation. We make a culture of the feces of the pigeon, and so we have the growth of the bacterial culture.
How long it takes, how many hours it takes from the droppings from the pigeon comes in until you have results? How many time it takes?
It could be take 24 or 48 hours to have a clean culture.
So it is absolutely not possible that a vet has a pigeon and can say just in a couple of minutes this is paratyphoid.
No, that's in many problems quite difficult.
Whilst we were filming in Belgium, by good fortune for us, but not perhaps for the pigeon, a bird flew in with a broken leg. This is not as serious as it may seem. Amazingly, Armand's advice is not to try to put the broken leg in splints. The pigeon will cure itself. Settle it in its box and nature will take care of things. The bird will sit still with the limb held in the right position until the fracture has set.
Tell me, pox.
Yeah, pox is also a virus, and pox is a summer disease. The pox virus is in most cases, 99%, is brought to the pigeon through mosquitoes in the summer. Mosquitoes are infected with the pox virus, have problems with mosquitoes in the loft, just set himself on the pigeon, and after a couple of weeks, the pigeons show already the pox symptoms. There is no cure for pox. Pox go in most cases together with diphtheria, the yellow pus, sometimes. The pigeon can also have diphtheria without pox, and then fancier thing, it's trichomonas, has nothing to do with it. But let's come back to the pox infection. There is, when the pigeon have pox, let them go through it, because there is not one cure against pox. There is absolutely not one cure against any kind of virus disease.
I understand that in Belgium and Germany, they encourage pox at certain times of the year. I understand that once a pigeon have contacted pox, have got better through it,
Yeah.
they have a lifelong immunity to it.
Right.
And would that immunity pass on to the young?
No.
It would not.
No. Look, the one says, and this is true, that the best cure, or the best vaccination for pox, not cure because there is no cure, but the best vaccination for pox is let the pigeon have the pox on a natural way. But the problem is that this always happens during the racing season,
Right.
and the fancier is kicked out for a couple of weeks.
Right.
So what they do, they go vaccinate with the pox vaccine, and no problem in the summer. But these pigeons, you can vaccinate the pigeon against pox. You do it after 1 or 2 years again. You do it again and again. A pigeon who had pox from their own, who was not vaccinated, in most cases, is immune for life.
The pox symptoms are noodles, warts around the mouth,
Yes, even
the mouth,
inside. Yes,
and around the eyes. Sometimes.
yes, even in the nose.
Tell me, Armand, respiratory trouble,
Hmm.
colds, one-eyed colds, major problem in England.
Yeah, not only in England,
Not only in
it's a
England.
little bit everywhere. Yeah.
Would you say that was one of the underlying factors of losses in racing pigeons? respiratory?
Maybe yes, also the weather, but maybe. But here, it's a very, very dangerous and difficult point to talk about respiratory disease. Let's take, in the last 10, 15, 20 years, fanciers started to treat their birds with antibiotics. Respiratory, hey, terramycin, oxytetracycline, this one. Whatever it was, as long as it was antibiotic, because he told me, and he had success with it. So, same thing, same birds.
And same in England, if I may say.
Yeah, it was the same. It's still in Germany, you know, because Germany is crazy with antibiotics. But they kill their own birds. I explain you that later, but the problem is...
I'm not a German, Armand.
No,
You
okay,
can talk freely.
okay, but the big problem is that people think that antibiotic is a medication who kills the bacteria. Because antibiotic, antibios, against life. This is the name of antibiotic, so it kills. And this is not true. Antibiotic stop the production, the reproduction of the bacteria. Stop the
good ones?
How you say this in English? Both.
Good and bad.
It stop, yes, it stop the
reproduction
of bacteria, you know? And once we give an antibiotic, let me put it other ways. One pigeon is sick, you know, has what I called as a disease of bronchitis, okay? The fancier go to a vet. The vet said, look, I give you this antibiotic. You're going to give it for 10 or 15 days. Fancier give it for the first time, the pigeon has this antibiotic. So he give it. After 5, 6 days, the fancier sees already, hey, it's cured, it's finished. A couple of days more, see nothing anymore, stopped, finished. This is wrong. Because a lot of bacteria inside had the antibiotic. Suddenly it stopped. So they survive, or they're producing again other ones. And this one who survived are stronger, immune. So they're starting to produce immune bacteria against the antibiotic. And the biggest problem is that a lot of fancier gives antibiotic preventive to the pigeons before and after the races. And this is why every year more and more respiratory troubles comes on. And when it goes, and remember my words, in 10 years, when it stays like that, and let the fanciers give antibiotics just like that, in 10 years the biggest problem shall be respiratory. Because every pigeon shall be practically immune against those antibiotics. I hope I'm wrong, but...
Medical science would say you're most certainly correct. From a human point of view, the doctors stress you must take a full course of antibiotics. And it was explained to me once by a physician that if you do not, you may kill some baddies, if we can call them baddies, but the other ones left will get stronger.
Right.
So next time you have a problem,
Yes.
you have to have double a dose.
That's right.
To kill all the baddies.
So here we are.
And if you don't do it, you have to kill 3 times a dose. In the case of pigeons,
Yeah.
almost a syrup.
Yeah, that's
concentration.
exactly what I mean.
And you feel that the overuse of antibiotics weakens the resistance to colds, what have we, and eventually, in your example, 10 years' time, the main disease of racing pigeons, prevalent, which let's say today is not far short, will be respiratory infections.
Yeah, that's right.
How do we prevent?
That's difficult, huh? How can we prevent a respiratory disease? When it is from the loft, just first look off the ventilation in the loft. That's one. Because
Plenty of air, drafts, wind.
yes, that's what I mean. And also draft, you know, from different places in the loft.
Is that good?
No, no, no.
No.
Absolutely no draft.
Oh, I thought that pigeons would be nice big open lofts, plenty of fresh air, open fronts. No good.
No draft. I don't know exactly. We mean in Belgium we draft when it's like we're sitting here in the living room, you know, and there is a window open and I have some draft. Come on, close that window. That's what I call draft. But I'm not calling draft a normal ventilation in the loft, you know.
May I stop you there?
Yeah?
In England, up until 15, 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, the majority of pigeon lofts in England were open.
Yeah.
The more fresh
Yeah,
air,
yeah,
the better.
yeah. I know. I saw them.
Yes,
I
and
see.
at the top of the lofts, at the back,
Yeah.
that much air.
Yeah.
And some people did boast that when it snowed, snow blew
I know.
onto the perches. That's no good, Armand.
Look, it's a difficult point as well. I come in Ireland, I come in England, in Scotland. A couple of weeks ago I was in Malta. The island of Malta, I saw the lofts. Jesus, when we have lofts like that in Belgium, you forget just to win a prize. I said the same 10 years ago in the UK. This is not a pigeon loft, that's a dog house, you know. Open in the front, open on the side, open in the back. But after years and years coming more and more to the UK, and I have a lot of friends in England, and they said, hey, they win, you know. And when I have some Belgian fanciers with me, and they see those lofts in the UK, and they say, hey, come on, not on these lofts. Come with a loft like that to Belgium, and you shall never win a prize.
That subject of lofts is obviously, I wouldn't say controversial, but where I come from in England, they deem that fresh air, you call drafts, very important. Perhaps sometime today we can see a typical Belgium loft, and dare I say, no drafts.
Yeah.
But you feel that the loft environment is the best prevention of respiratory
Absolutely.
disease.
Yes, but I want to say something else about that, because about 8-9 years ago I was in Wales, and there was a Dutchman who moved from Holland to Wales, lived there with his family, and he was a pigeon fancier in Holland, and a good one. And he said, hey, with these lofts here and this system of racing pigeons, I'm going to be a champion. So he bought himself a marvelous loft in Holland. They brought it over from Holland to Wales. One of the lofts we are used to, this beautiful loft, you know. And he started to race with his birds on that loft. And he couldn't win. All these lofts there with open on the front and on the side, and people around, they said, is this now that loft, you know? And that loft was one of the lofts we know in Belgium. So you tell me.
Perhaps it's the pigeons. Maybe the pigeons.
Loft is important, that's a fact. But if you have a loft made with wood of oranges, or if you have a loft made in white marble, or whatever it is, when 3 points are all right, is the ventilation of the loft, insulation. Sometimes we cannot talk a lot about insulation in the UK when I see the lofts there. But, and on the other side, the good direction, sun, you know that as good as I do. But every type of loft can be good, and every type of loft can be bad. It depends how the pigeon feel themselves.
One way in the loft to keep our pigeons free of colds and one-eyed colds, which I understand is all under the umbrella of a respiratory infection, one-eyed cold, hepatitis, bronchial snots, all comes under that umbrella. We've discussed the loft in little detail, which hopefully later we'll see some of your ideals put into practical use. Could you, like for diet, for example, would that help to combat respiratory infections in so much a good all-round diet to keep the pigeons
In condition or what?
conditioned? Yeah. Would you say that diet or vitamin minerals in the water, for example?
Not directly with respiratory. I don't believe it has to do something directly with respiratory, but with diet, you can change a lot in the pigeon, especially concerning condition. Absolutely. I mentioned a name, and it was a champion here, is Jan Grondelaars, you know him. And last year he said to the young birds, he said, I raced with my young birds on diet.
On a diet?
On the diet, yes, short distance races. And after diet he went again to the normal racing mixtures, etc., etc. And after a couple of weeks the performances came down. And then Jan told to his son-in-law, put these pigeons again for a whole week on the diet. Diet, not the curative, real diet. Right. Put them for a whole week. So that's what he did. Next week, pigeons won again. I think it's on the nutrition side and the nutrition science, one can calculate what a pigeon needs, and one can calculate how many protein and how many fat, and one can calculate vitamins, minerals, everything, even by computer theory, you know. And this theory we need it. But on the other side, outside of this theory, we also need the practical side and the experience of those fanciers.
I'm trying to establish this respiratory disease infection is caused through some deficiency in the diet or bad husbandry, but you say it's not.
No.
It's a virus infection.
Well, it can be a virus, it can be a bacteria, but I don't believe that respiratory diseases, as cars can have a shortage of this, of a shortage of a vitamin, of a shortage of a mineral, or not even a disturbance in the metabolism. It can help you, it can maybe stimulate it a little bit, okay, but it's not the cause. The cause is it's bacterial, it's a virus. Pigeon can catch a cold like we can do. What is catching a cold? That's suddenly the temperature in the body goes down, the blood. Then from this little temperature shock, bacteria come out, you know, and pigeon is sick. This is what we have. This is what the pigeons have. It has nothing to do with shortages of diets or vitamins. No.
Symptoms, simply one-eyed cold,
Yeah.
is a symptom of a respiratory infection.
Yes.
Snops,
Yes.
yellowy,
Chorizo. Yes.
aggressive, yeah. And the cures,
Well, it depends. It depends. I told you in the beginning it's a very difficult point. Nobody can say, my pigeon has a respiratory problem. Nobody can say, you give that antibiotic and you shall succeed. I can't, a vet can't, nobody can't. We can try, you know? But snot infections or respiratory infections, we know maybe more than 50, 60 different types of respiratory troubles. And against every case of respiratory, we need a medication. So in the laboratories, sometimes they look just like that, the eye sign, okay, there is a snot, it's not so bad. Give them an antibiotic against snot. In most cases, they succeed. But we can never tell, or a vet can never tell to a fancier, you take this, it shall be finished next week. You can't. Most cases, it's finished in a way, because a vet, he knows what he knew, he has also a lot of experience with it, you know. But it's not, it shall never be, how do you say this in English, the vet can never be sure that it shall be finished. This is the problem with antibiotics and bacteria.
talking of treating, would you say to some people it is better to cure or better to prevent?
You can't prevent with antibiotics.
You cannot.
A lot of people try, but you can't.
In England, we have an annual book. In fact, there's several of them. And each year, the most successful fanciers of that year contributes an article. And they give you a month-by-month, season-by-season of what they do.
Yeah.
And the better pigeon fanciers of that year, many, if not the majority, advocate a prevention program in the spring. I'll give you an example. In January, they suggest we worm our pigeons with no veterinary advice. We just go along, we have 100 pigeons,
Right.
and we worm them. We then say, or they say, that after a week of that, we then treat them for coccidiosis, and then trichomoniasis, and then respiratory trouble. I was speaking to a learned gentleman, not unlike yourself, who said, Tony, that is crazy. That is very similar to treating a man for a broken leg before he has broken it.
In one way, yes, this gentleman is right. In one way, not always, because you're talking about programmed blind treatments.
A programmed
blind treatments.
Blind treatment.
Look, when you come to countries like Portugal, like Malta, like Spain, even like Sweden, Norway, in those countries there are no vets who, there are even vets who never saw a pigeon in all their life before. So, it just don't exist. So these fanciers there have to go to that type of medication and preventives that they see in the newspapers, in the publicities that they can buy by the pharmacist, even by vets, you know. In Malta, a lot of pigeons are treated there with products for chicken and even for cats and dogs, because the vet said, what do I know of a pigeon? We are treating dogs and cats and even cows and horses, but so in those countries, and then there are some programs. They said, okay, these people, they also want to raise pigeons. We can give them a treatment for trichomonas, no problem. Blind, no problem. Treatment for worms once a year. Okay, these people has no choice. When fanciers do that here in Belgium, we should say this is crazy. Are you out of your mind just giving medication like
Because
that?
you have veterinaries.
That's right.
Well,
So we have to deal with the fact that in those countries there are no vets. So in one way, these people have to go to the blind treatments.
But from a professional point of view,
It's wrong.
It is wrong.
It's wrong, yes.
The new disease of the 80s, paramyxis, the question really is it wise to vaccinate or not?
Absolutely, you have to vaccinate. First of all, I will, the word new disease, I should not use new because paramyxo is a virus, and it comes actually from a disease called the Newcastle disease. And by mutation, there is another virus came out similar, and it's the paramyxo. It causes practically the same symptoms, the same disease like Newcastle by chicken, and etc. But concerning the vaccination now, after 6-7 years experience on paramyxo, I should say it is irresponsible to not vaccinate.
Not to vaccinate.
That's
It's
right.
very important now.
That's right, because the disease is simulated a little bit in every country. Belgium, Holland, Germany, the UK, Ireland, Italy, Spain, Malta, even USA. So it's over the world. The fanciers who do not vaccinate now in those days, they are a danger, in a way, a danger to their colleagues, to the other fanciers.
Sure.
Because they cannot know that their pigeons is not infected with the paramyxo virus. Because when they only vaccinated when there is something wrong or when they see the symptoms, then once again it's already too late.
Too late.
You know?
That's right.
So if everybody vaccinated his pigeons against paramyxo in the years 81, 82, I assure you that now on this moment we didn't talk about this paramyxo anymore.
Problem is, Armand, is that some people or some schools of thought think that by vaccination that you weaken the body's resistance.
Oh no, in the contrary. In the contrary, vaccination is put the disease into the pigeon, but the virus is weaked off. I don't know how you say it in English,
Yes,
but
we-
weaked off or death.
Yeah.
So the pigeon himself going to produce antigens, antibodies against
Goodies.
the virus. So you're going to make the pigeon stronger, not weaken him up.
So
It
it's-
is ridiculous.
So the question is reversed. In actual
That's
fact,
right,
it's a
yeah.
benefit
That's absolutely.
to vaccinate.
Yes,
In a
absolutely.
pure world, in an ideal world, is it possible to prevent paramyxis in any way? Anything we can do in the loft from day to day?
Well, to prevent a virus disease is not so easy. Hygiene is, of course, comes on the first place. Hygiene in a loft. Prevent a virus. This disease comes from everywhere. You get it or you don't get it. Even the cleanest pigeon fancier, and the fancier who take care 100% of his birds, of his loft, nobody can say he shall never have paramyxer because this man is so punctual. Everybody can have it. So, prevention against paramyxer, some vitamins, everything is a prevention. You can give some vitamins, but no guarantees on that, you know.
Once the pigeon have contracted paramyxis,
Yes.
with the obvious symptoms,
Yeah.
and if a pigeon lives through the virus infection, it can come better, am I right? And it can perform equally as well
Absolutely.
as before.
Absolutely. Pigeons who had paramyxel, then we can use some products. There is no medication against paramyxel. Absolutely not. But a pigeon who has the paramyxel virus, and especially in the intestines, they're going to have a lot of wet droppings, water. Pigeon's going to lose weight. This is why, and also in Germany, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Dr. Radai from the German Federation wrote in the Brieftaube when the paramyxer came to
Excuse me,
Germany.
Armand, the brief tauben is the same as the English racing pigeon
Yes,
and British hummingwort.
it's the national paper from
I'm with you,
Germany
yeah.
in the racing
Brief
pigeon
tauben.
sport. Yes, everybody has it.
Yep.
And he wrote in the Brieftaube that please give your pigeons electrolytes, because through the virus they lose a lot of salts and electrolytes, you know. So give them electrolytes. It is not a cure, but it helps recover your pigeons a lot quicker.
The body forms a resistance.
That's right.
Builds
Yes.
the body's up.
That's right. And we found out after a couple of years that the pigeons, those who get regularly electrolytes, had also less problems with paramyxo. And those who had paramyxo recovered a lot quicker than those without electrolytes.
New thing, electrolytes in the UK, or reasonably new. Quite a few more fancies are using them, particularly in the racing season after
Yes.
after a heavy race, a hard race, you know. Lice, mites, insects, important, Armand? Do
Skin parasites. Well, of course, I don't know one good lice. You know, every lice or every parasite is bad, and it's better not get them than to have them. But some are dangerous, some are less dangerous. Let it put it this way. The normal pigeon lice, the large one, practically every fancier knows them, are not directly so dangerous, but it can be dangerous on a side that they can bring disease over from one pigeon to another.
this
one.
goes back to bacterial infections?
Yes, yes,
A
because
third-
these lice can be carriers
Yeah.
of bacteria. On the other side, you have ectoparasites or skin parasites who damage the skin, damage the feathers, and can even cause diseases, skin diseases. Better get rid of them. If you have ectoparasites, use a good product, use an insecticide. do something, get rid of them.
Your strong recommendation is don't have lice, mites on
Oh,
pigeon.
no.
Green food, Armand. Country, the world, I think, is changing more to more natural products.
Yes.
Now, we did say in conversation earlier on about most modern medicines are derived from plants, flowers,
Yes.
roots, and so forth.
Mhm.
For example, the use of garlic, teas of combinations.
Onions.
We use onions, milk, brewer's yeast. Incidentally, talking of brewer's yeast, I do recall an excellent article of yours stating that the vitamin B content in a pound of brewer's yeast is fractional compared to artificially placed in the water.
Yeah.
Could you expand perhaps a little more on that? Well, first and foremost, green food versus natural food, green substances. Are there any really benefits to the average pigeon fancier using more green food? Green food meaning
Yes, natural
artificial.
things. Yes, they are good, of course. They are excellent. A lot of fanciers use garlic and onions and natural plants and herbs. There are a lot of teas on the market. A lot of companies produce a lot of teas, and a tea it's good. It's marvelous, but
good.
never expect miracles of it. A tea, giving tea is not a promise, you know. So nobody can tell you, give the pigeon a garlic or give him that tea or that herb, it shall be doing that or that. This is, you know, it's good for the health, it's good for the metabolism of the pigeon, it's good for a lot of things, but expect no miracles of it. We like to give our pigeons tea as well. They get every week, once or 2 days in a week, they get a good tea from different rare herbs, and it's excellent. But not compare this, like you said, with the brew yeast. Some fanciers said, okay, why giving vitamins? Aren't they already in the food? Aren't they already in the tea? Or, of course, they are in garlic, they are in brew yeast, they are in carrots, they are in everything. But the pharmaceutical companies and the laboratories in those years produce also vitamin products. And to give you an example, like the brew yeast, you give, for example, 1 little teaspoon of vitamin B group, whatever.
which I understand is the most important in
yes.
brewer's yeast. The vitamin B group is most important.
Yes, it is, let's say, is dominated.
Right.
Under
Yes.
the brew yeast, okay? But when the fanciers, okay, my pigeons need some, a little bit of the B group, we're going to give them some brew yeast, okay, very good, very healthy, everything you want. But for this, to have this vitamin B, and you use a bottle you buy from a company or from a laboratory, whatever trademark it is, not talk about that now, but this little teaspoon of vitamin B, you maybe need a half lorry of these plants, of these brew yeast, to have the same concentration from these vitamins you can give here produced by one of those labs. And that does not mean that with this, don't take it as an overdose, because we're wrong again, because the governments and the controls of the veterinarian, how you say this in England, there is from the government the control on the products that comes in.
ministry.
They have limits, and not one of this vitamin preparation shall pass these limits. And these limits are made so low that nothing can happen. Even when a fancier thinks, I'm going to give some vitamins on my pigeons, I'm going to give them an overdose. We shall see on Sunday, just forget it, this is ridiculous. You can overdose 5-6 times, no problem. You shall never have a performance on your pigeon, or you cannot say, my pigeon, I'm going to let them fly a little bit faster on Sunday by give them some dose of those vitamins. Forget it. This is, we say in Belgium, Larry. This is ridiculous. Don't believe in that.
You cannot overdose vitamins and minerals.
You can overdose, but not with those products.
Yeah,
Nobody is so foolish to put an old bottle of vitamins in his drinking pot. Then you overdose. But I'm sure that nobody is that foolish. But some, when they say 1 teaspoon a liter, some says, I'm going to give 2 or 3 teaspoons a liter. That is no use.
So to summarize that little part, Armand, dare I say it, that the natural products like carrots, milk, herbs, nettles and so forth, the derivement of vitamins from there can easily be obtained in a very small and easy way by putting manufactured vitamins
Absolutely.
into the water.
Absolutely, but on the other side, I will not have said that don't use these natural products, because we use them ourselves. Outside of the vitamins of those plants, there are other things who are very healthy for the pigeons.
That's good.
So, if the fanciers want to give these green products or these natural products, please do. It's okay, no problem.
That is good. Armand, in the loft, some people like to be extreme and clean their loft 3 times a day with a hoover, whilst other people, I am referring to the UK, tend to leave their loft once a year, for example. In your view, which would be, let's say, an ideal situation?
You're talking about the deep litter system.
That's right.
Well, there are some lofts in Belgium who also have this deep litter system, and I agree with the deep litter system on one condition: when the loft is dry. And with dry I mean, because they often use the word dry too easy. A dry loft for me is when you stamp on the floor and the dust comes 1 yard high, that's a dry loft. No problem with the deep litter system. When you use a deep litter system in a loft with a lot of moisture in the air, or even moisture in the wood, this is dangerous. This loft is a breeding station for coccidiosis, worms, etc. So, by a dry loft, no problem with the deep litter. My personal opinion, clean twice a day.
Clean twice a
I'm
day.
a little bit against the deep litter, because we had in the past so a lot of experience. Oh, I have the deep litter and I have a dry loft. You see these droppings under the microscope, you see worm eggs, you see coccidiosis. He said, my loft is dry. Okay, that's it. So the best thing to do is clean it, keep it clean twice a day, and this is the best way to prevent this parasital.
It is prevention we're really talking
Yes.
about, aren't we?
Right.
Tell me, rest. How do you feel from a medical point of view, for example?
yeah.
Is rest beneficial, apart
Yeah.
from the obvious tired pigeon, but rest as opposed to physical?
Absolutely, yes, sir. Absolutely, when we talk about long distance races, and from middle to long distance races, in Germany, for example, where they have to race every week, the same pigeons every week during a whole season, going from 80 miles, it takes 600 miles, every week, the same bird. On the medical side, I'm absolutely not agree with it, and not one veterinary in Belgium, not even in Germany, is agree with that. But this is their system. In Belgium, they don't do that. They give the pigeon a rest when they have a race from 500-600 miles. Give them a couple of weeks rest. Okay. On the point of the sport point of view, that's something else. You know better than I do.
So we're really saying, Armand, you can't really overdose your pigeons with vitamins and minerals in the water.
No, not with the products who are on the market. Look, you can overdose always, but it's foolish to put in a whole bottle of vitamins in the drinking pot, then you overdose. But some fanciers think when the subscription says about 1 teaspoon per liter for that vitamin preparation, and I'm going to use 2 or 3 teaspoons, you know, going to make my pigeons better, going to make the performances better. No, forget it. But this is not overdose, because the law, in every country there is a law that is borders, is levels. This is the highest level you may use of that vitamin. Well, they are so low that even by a 5-time overdose, you cannot harm the bird.
Good. Armand, tea. Various preparations are on the marketplace. Surely there are great benefits from the regular use of tea. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Tea, there are a lot of teas, but they all mixed it from different herbs and plants, and it's good. It's very healthy for the pigeon. It helps the pigeon in a lot of ways. You know, it helps in the metabolism, to keep the balance in the metabolism. It's even sometimes a good laxative for the pigeons. It purifies whatever. And I want to say something about this purifying, the blood of purifying.
Purification.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I had a couple of years ago a talk with a professor. He was also a pigeon fancier, and about this product that purifies the blood and that. And he said, come on, there's only one thing who can purify the blood. These are the lungs.
Good Lord.
And the word they use, it purifies the blood, they use it a little bit too often. Well, let's say it helps in one way. But nothing, not one product can purify blood, you know. But it helps in 100 ways, you know. Even some fanciers give some brew yeast or give some carrots to obtain the vitamin A, carotene, vitamin A. Let's give our birds. It's good. It's marvelous. But suppose a pigeon is in shortage of vitamin A or needs some vitamin B. Let's give him some brew yeast, and well, sometimes it's not enough because the products on the market are a vitamin product on the market. 1 teaspoon of that can carry so much vitamins A or B than a whole truck of carrots or a whole truck of brew yeast. You know, it's the concentration, because those vitamins come in most cases from green or natural products.
That's right.
But outside of these vitamins, never use a carrot or a brew yeast only for the contents of vitamins. Because these green products have other things, like I said, purifying and laxative, etc., etc. You know?
In the very olden days in England, Armand, garlic was used extensively. In fact, I believe the Black Plague of London in the 14th century, they used garlic extensively to try to kill the whatever it was.
Yeah.
Today, we pigeon fanciers use it, and we did mention earlier on about the fact it can be used not for treatment, but as a perhaps preventive
Of a health product.
Yes, indeed. Worms, for example, it tends to combat it.
Yeah.
Do you value garlic at all, Armand?
Absolutely, garlic is good. It's a natural product. Preventive worms, yeah, in a way. It's a big word, but in a way, yes.
It's an aid.
Yes, it's an aid, yes. On the other side, garlic is also a plant who regulates or keep the balance in the metabolism of the pigeon. It also attacks the cholesterol of the bird.
That's used extensively, of course, in human beings,
Yes.
where people, they thin to the arteries, the furring, so to speak. They claim that garlic tends to do away with the fur pieces in the arteries leading to the heart. So if it help a human being,
That's right.
perhaps it will...
That's right, but once again, never expect miracles of it. All little bits help. Garlic is one of them, let it put it this way. but never make from a garlic or from a tea or from that, never make it a miracle product out of it.
When I talk to the older generation of pigeon fanciers in England, they tell me quite frequently that there were less disease of yesteryear as compared to today. Are there any medical evidence to support that view?
Do you mean that in the old days they had less disease than now?
Yes.
Okay. It's a question who comes often also in Belgium, that old fancier came to us and said, now in those days you people find out every year a new disease, and then in my days, you know, we give nothing to the pigeon, we also want prize. That's a fact. But in those days, 30, 40, 50 years ago, the pigeon sport was also like now. It was a fact. They give the most of them, 99% give nothing to the pigeons. But in those days, every pigeon was infected with trichomonas. That's a fact. Every pigeon had some coccidiosis. The one who are too high in level, they just kill them. That's it. Now they cure them. And just look to the results. And the results on paper.
Performances.
Now, yes. Now here, let's talk about Belgium, in Antwerp. A race from about 300-400 miles with more than 10,000 pigeons. After 4 or 5 minutes, prices are gone. In those days, years ago, the prices stay open for 1 day, sometimes 2 days. So the performances, the qualities of the bird performed enormously. And everybody knows that, and everybody is agree with that. And to give you an example, in the island of Malta, we did an examination with Dr. Lenz and our crew of the laboratory for free, just for the fanciers in the island Malta. And we had about 120 fanciers there in that hall on that Friday night. And every pigeon we had under the microscope, practically every pigeon, was infected with trichomonas.
Thank you.
Yeah, canker, you call it. Everyone. And then there came a man to me and he said, sir, you tell me my pigeons are sick. And I'm the best champion here for years and years. And this year again, smashed everything. And I said, congratulations, sir. You're the champion of the sick pigeons. Because when you send 1,000 pigeons to a race, all 1,000 infected, there is only one who shall first. He's a champion of the infected ones. And then he said, yeah. I say, if you do an examination like that in Belgium, take 120 fanciers, maybe you have 1 or 2 infected. Here is the other way around.
Interesting, and it's something which no doubt we could discuss for a long time. There must be a winner, sick pigeons or fit pigeons.
That's right.
But the fitter ones, obviously, and the extra speed they've got. To summarise the section on prevention, how do we attain a perfect racing loft where we can do all the things right, a dry loft, good environment, number of pigeons, which I think is important in a loft.
Yes.
How many would you say, for example, Armand?
Well, one of the biggest mistakes a fancier can make is overpopulation in the loft. The ideal way is about 2-3 pigeons per square meter maximum. I know lofts with 6, 7 until 10 per square meter. These lofts shall never perform, and those lofts should have always troubles with infections, disease, because overpopulations is one of the main reasons for a lot of diseases.
Overcrowding,
Yes.
very bad in the
Absolutely.
pigeon sport. Encourages disease, of course, apart from the hard work. So we've got a dry loft, we've got a perfect loft, we've got a few pigeons. What's the next, or at least I would deem the most next important part, must surely be the diet in preventing disease. Would you agree, Armand?
Yes. Diet on the food, you mean?
The food in general, yes.
Well, look, this is very hard because you have a loft, he does this way with his feeding, put them on the diet, keep the balance, you know, also through the food and keep the metabolism in balance. But how can the fancier know what is the balance, or how do you have to do it? It depends from country to country, fancier to fancier. I cannot say to a fancier in Malta, do it this way, because there are other temperatures. It's totally different as here. The same in the north of Sweden. It's different. Just look the lofts. In the UK, look the lofts in Belgium. Look the system they used in the UK in the past and still do about beans and peas.
Can I just stop you there, my
Yes.
friend? Going back to the system of feeding, and we mentioned the UK, and we'll talk about the UK. We talk about hopper feeding, which is continuously food in front of them, or a diet regime where they're measured. Just before we come back onto the bean subject, which
Yes.
is very dear to my heart, tell me, are there any advantages or disadvantages by feeding all they can eat all the time, or by rationing per pigeon per day?
To tell you the truth, no.
Not. Good.
No. We did a lot of tests, and some other fanciers did a lot of tests. Going on the, how you say this in English, randomization, given every pigeon individually,
Yes, that's right.
and give them full hopper on. Well, we did everything, and on the end of the story, we have one conclusion: the pigeons, they take what they need. You can put them on a diet to prepare them for a race. This is the sportive way of feeding. Okay, agree. There are a lot of systems. But to say put them on a diet to keep them healthy, no.
Which brings me rather nicely round back to beans,
Yes.
which I rudely interrupted.
That's something else, eh? That's something else. huh?
Beans, Armand. Why, when I come to Belgium and Belgium and Holland and whatever, they think we Englishmen are a little strange. Now, you mentioned just now that in Sweden, the mode of feeding would be a little different than, say, Malta, due to the temperatures. Are you saying, or am I saying to you, would it be advantageous to feed a more high protein, example beans, the more northern you live in the world? For example, we in England use beans, as you well know.
Yeah.
Would you concur and say the farther north, the colder it is, the more beans one must use, or more protein one must use?
It's not necessary to have beans, more protein, yes. Well, we come a lot in the north of Sweden. These people do not feed beans. They use the New Zealand maple peas, they use peas. They use other products. They even use a pellet with fish in it, because it's a fish country, Sweden, Denmark. And there is a little factory in Sweden to produce a pellet for pigeons, contains 85% of herring fish, So it's a protein. In Ireland, in the UK, in the past was beans and peas. Then they went more through the years, more and more to the Dutch, Belgium systems and mixtures. And people succeed with it. But still now, we're producing on the moment a mixture with 25% beans and 30% peas. It's called a high velocity. And still a lot of people winning with that mixture. And when I show this mixture to a Belgian fancier, to a Belgian champion, he said to me, "Are you out of your mind? We shall never feed that to our pigeons."
In England, there are some fanciers who maintain and insist indeed that they use the same grain, same variety of grain, all year round.
Yes.
And they think that is good.
Yes. Well, we have some fanciers in Belgium too who use a breeding mixture whole year round. Well, but in a way, no, it's not good, because those fanciers who use the same mixture, I'm sure they shall give extra barley in the malting season. They should give extra this in another season. They give something to it. So, in one way, they do not give all year round the same, because they, by themselves, they do some supplements.
The pigeon is doing
Yes,
different jobs.
that's right. But on the other side, it's not good, because now in those years and already years and years, the factories, they have their veterinaries, they have their engineers, diet engineers, and they know exactly how to calculate a mixture. So, also a pigeon has 4 seasons. There's the breeding season, the molting season, the racing season, and the rest season.
Can I just ask you, Armand, then,
Yes.
in that case, for example, the molting season, more protein?
And yes, more protein, and also this is a totally different mixture, because in the molting they need especially new harvest barley, new harvest wheat, new harvest black grape and linseed. For the oils, the etheric oils in the seeds and everything, this really stimulates the molting by a pigeon. To give you a little example, you give a pig new harvest barley in meal to pigs, they're going to have, after 2-3 days, immediately a skin disease because of the new harvest of this barley. Well, that's exactly what a pigeon needs. Pigeons should not have a skin disease. They should put their feathers out. So it stimulates the molt. Do the same tests with the malting mixture with old grains, that's years old, harvest from barley and everything. You shall see immediately that the malt shall go more slower. And this is why I'm always saying, you're talking about a malting mixture, one can only talk about a malting mixture when the wheat, barley, linseed and black grape is from new harvest. Then we have a malting mixture. But that one factory took 1 or 2% more, less peas, or some more, 1-2% more maize, that makes no difference.
Good.
Keep the
So
mixture
it's
healthy.
good fresh corn we
Yes.
need for malting, as opposed to the olden days when people used to store their corn
That's
for
right.
malting.
That's right.
We have next the resting season.
Yes, less protein, lot of good barley, wheat, not too much protein, good maize, no problem.
Fine. Next we have the breeding season.
Breeding season, we need, of course, here a good mixture. Also, high in protein when they are with youngsters.
High protein.
Yes, high protein when they are with youngsters. Not too much, and I prefer no safflower in this mixture, because safflower is one of the only grains who do not contain tocopherol, and tocopherol is the vitamin E, and the vitamin E is the fertility vitamin, and that's exactly what the pigeon needs in a breeding mixture.
Right.
So why should you put a cardia or a safflower into a breeding mixture where there is no tocopherol? But it's very good in a malting mixture and also in a racing mixture, because it contains these etheric oils, what the pigeon needs, and it's very, very good for the malting, these oils, like I told you. It's also good in a racing season, once again, to keep the balance a little bit.
Which brings us nicely into a racing
That's
season.
right, yes.
Which you recommend what, Armand? Very briefly, racing season mixture would be high of carbohydrates, high of energy?
Yes, it depends what races you fly. Here we come to another point. It's also very difficult. Long distance, a lot of protein. Short distance, less protein. That's what we do in Belgium. In other countries, sometimes they do it on the other side. So one says every system is good. Maybe. Science is one. And we can tell you exactly what the pigeon needs with experience, with even by the help of computer calculations. We can tell exactly that's what the pigeon needs in that season. It is correct. But then we come on the other side, the practical side. And then you have to deal with the fancier, who is a winner or a loser. And suppose one fanciers do it totally different, as we calculated and we had in mind, and he's winning. Now,
That's right. I know.
what shall I tell this man? But in the majority,
Which we,
every fancier used the season and a mixture for a season where the pigeon is in. And in the majority, you better follow these. There are always exceptions.
good. I know, Armand, that food and dietary is a forte, a specialist of yourself. Just briefly, pellets versus hard corn. Years ago, we got very popular with pellets in the UK, a soft pellet, and I personally felt that it was perhaps derogatory to a pigeon's natural functions to have a seed which in fact was soft. Am I right?
That's right, yes. Well, personally, I'm not against pellets, but I'm also not for pellets. 6-7 years ago, there was also in Belgium a big company started with the new pigeon food, everything in pellets, breeding pellet, racing pellet, molting pellet. And on the scientific way, it was good. Everything was in it, 100%. But then, once again, we come on the practical way. A pigeon is a corn eater.
Seed eater. That's right.
Right? And one thing was it came out, it was something new, but the veterinarians came out. It was a kind of disease called moniliasis. It's into crop. And a lot of veterinarians found to each other in Belgium, hey, I get this too, I get this too. This came from a kind of a pellet. I'm not talking about protein pellets.
No.
Because some companies in Belgium, in the UK, produce some protein pellets to give by corn, okay, to give the pigeons some more protein.
Additive.
But put them 100% on pellets, breeding pellets, molting pellets. On the scientific way, we said, perfect, okay, 100%. But you cannot make a robot of that pigeon. He needs nature. He needs that corn. He's a corn eater. That's it. This is my personal opinion.
That's good. I've enjoyed our discussion, Armand, on this subject, which is, to every pigeon fancier, most important, and that is keeping them healthy.
Mhm.
Perhaps you would kindly, in your own words, summarize what we've discussed.
Well, sometimes one asks, what should we do to succeed? And this answer is, it's everything. Good pigeons is one, loft, good ventilation, keep it clean, deep litter, okay, when it's dry, disease prevention. You can prevent a lot with
Good husbandry?
yes, and harmful natural products. Go to a vet if you can't regularly. Send some droppings up to laboratories regularly. So keep pigeons under control. The feeding, follow the feeding system a little bit. In the way the system you fly, ask advice, how should I feed? This is my program, I'll leave there. What is the best way of feeding? Maybe nobody can tell them exactly, but one can help, you know. And on the end, of course, the fancier himself. Do not believe too much in products who they say it brings your pigeons into a condition, it makes your pigeon fly, it's dangerous, believe in things like that. Absolutely do not believe in these ridiculous things they say about drugs for pigeon, dope, you know. Just keep on the healthy way, give them the food, hygiene, keep them healthy.
At last, your chance to be in on the secrets. The secrets of international winner and master flyer Noel de Croix. Belgium's #1 explains his breeding methods, his racing tactics, and a lifetime's know-how. His international and national winners alone will always place him on Europe's Roll of Honour. The secrets of the master flyer in Simply de Croix. Out now, only on video.